Hey everyone, this is a clip from a recent episode of the Men of Steel podcast where we talk about Superman and Superman adjacent topics. If you enjoy this clip, check out the podcast. You can find it at certainpov.com or wherever you get your shows.
So Zach, I had been presenting this hypothesis that the four Supermen are a commentary by the Superman writing team about the nature of comics at this point, to varying degrees. There's also an element of them just testing the waters of like, which Superman do people gravitate towards? Which one's the cool one? Although clearly they never were going to be like, and the original is never coming back, because they, like, rereading it now, knowing like how it actually plays out, I'm like, oh no, they really do set up all the things for Superman coming back in that first issue of Action Comics that opens this arc. But it, like, we had made a point that like Louise Simonson is the writer on Superman, Man of Steel, and that she her previous big gig was doing New Mutants, which she was ousted by Rob Liefeld on. And I could imagine her having an axe to grind in discussions of like some of the like Image era comics.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. That is fantastic context and actually makes Man of Steel slightly better for me. It's still pretty cringe, but it does make it a little bit. It still makes it. There's a little better.
Man of Steel we'll have to talk about. I mean, obviously we're talking about all these, but
we're going to talk about all these.
There's things going on.
Man of Steel. Oh my God, that's so. I took pictures and sent to my friends, going like, "Look at this shit." So
we'll get to, because I think there's a lot of stuff that's like doesn't hold up very well, but had the best of intentions at the time.
Yes, it did.
But yeah, so like we've got cool hip like 90s superhero Superboy who is like wearing a jacket, which had become kind of the cool thing for stuff like this is the era of the X-Men having jackets. This is the era like the Jacket Avengers. This is all post Animal Man, and before that that like one pinup done with Miracle Man wearing a jacket that everyone gravitated towards. So it's that era where they're adding like fashion accessories to the characters, and just needless belts
and
everywhere.
Straps.
So that's one thing.
He's got that mid-thigh strap, which has to stay for for when Jonathan Kent adopts it in 2023. And then he's the amazing circular glasses, which he should never take off even indoors, because that's an amazing look.
Yeah. Oh God, I love. There's a lot of stuff where it's like the fashion choices do not work today anymore, but or have started to come back around in some cases.
I was gonna say, like some of it,
love so much.
Some of it, put him in Crocs, and he looks like every other Gen Zer that I see at brunch.
Superboy definitely would have a TikTok today.
He would, and it would be great.
Absolutely. And he'd levitate the phone with his telekinesis once he realizes he has it, and it would be just like that scene from Chronicle. Where Dane DeHaan is just like having like phones float around him while he like broadcasts. But then you get like Steel, who is like classic armor guy. We've got the cyborg Superman, and like how many fucking characters were being introduced at that time that were cyborgs? Like look at the image slate. Look at Gore. Look at Bloodsport. Like look at all of anything from Todd McFarlane.
Superman looks like Cable, basically. Superman. If Cable looks like cyborg Cyclops, then Cyborg Superman is just kind of like looks like a DC riff off of that aesthetic, which is basically really interesting. Yeah.
And then you have Eradicator, who has a very of the time like center column like color thing. Like that's the Legion of Superheroes at the time. Like that was like completely across the board standard for their outfits. That was very much like an early 90s like design convention. Not that it had never existed before, but it was just like that had become popular at that point. But then his characterization as this like hardcore, I'm going to kill everyone kind of thing, I think is a commentary on a lot of the post-Punisher anti-hero movements that had been occurring in comics. And so you can see that there is like a lot of like commentary about comics, seeing like, all right, well, which things works, and opportunities to reintroduce stuff that the team had felt that they had lost in the wake of the Silver Age being reset to the John Byrne era. Superboy's a big part of that. They had like finally figured out a way to have Supergirl not be completely insane to discuss, but even then they hadn't quite nailed her yet. Like we'll get to some of the other like cool additions that we get there, but it's fun to have those elements and to like play fake outs with everyone. And obviously from the marketing standpoint, it's really good to be like, which of these four is Superman? Even though like in the actual comics, there's only the question for two, because it's very clear like, yeah, Superboy's a clone, and that has some interesting stuff going on there. And then Steel is very explicitly not Superman. Like he's like, I'm literally not Superman. My name is John Henry Irons. I have a suit of armor I built.
Remember, if you like the clip, after you're done liking and subscribing, check out certainpov.com, where you can find more episodes of the show, as well as a ton of other great shows.